Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really fascinating paradox from Japanese history. We're going to talk about how a truly devastating civil war, one that literally burned the capital city to the ground, didn't end up destroying Japanese culture. In fact, it kind of accidentally created it.
So right off the bat, here's the central puzzle we're trying to solve. How on earth does total, complete destruction lead to a cultural renaissance? I mean, it just sounds wrong, doesn't it? But the answer is actually hidden in the chaos of 15th century Japan.
Okay, so first things first, you have to understand the sheer scale of the Onin War. This wasn't just some small-scale rebellion. We're talking about an 11-year conflict that absolutely ripped the heart out of the nation.
Yeah, chronicles from the time. They do not pull any punches. The capital city, Kyoto, which had been the center of everything, politics, art, learning, you name it, for centuries, was just leveled. This wasn't just a bit of damage. It was a total cataclysm.
And take a look at this image. This is so important because it's not some modern artist's idea of what happened. This is a contemporary drawing. It shows you exactly what people were seeing and feeling at the time. A city engulfed in flames. A society completely falling apart.
So here's the crucial twist. This complete destruction of the center of Japan acted like a cultural Big Bang. You know, everything that had been packed tightly into Kyoto, the people, the power, the art, and all that knowledge was violently blown apart and scattered across the entire country.
And you can really break this great scattering down into four main steps. First, the capital burns down. Obvious enough. Second, all the nobles and aristocrats, the ones who basically owned high culture, they flee for their lives out into the countryside. Third, in all the chaos, priceless libraries get looted. Books and scrolls are just scattered to the wind. And finally, and this is the absolute key, all of that culture, all of that knowledge that was once locked away by the elite, it falls into the hands of ordinary people for the very first time.
And this really captures the long-term result perfectly. The historian Naito Konen put it best when he said this was the decisive moment. It was the brutal, completely accidental beginning of a literary culture for everybody in Japan, not just the rich and powerful.
You know, the upheaval was so intense that people at the time actually came up with a name for it. Shindai no Soidekai. It basically means a total transfer of assets. And that's not just about money changing hands. We're talking about a complete reshuffling of everything. Wealth, land, power, and most critically, information.
So this chaos didn't just scatter books and art. It completely shattered the entire social pyramid. And that brings us to our next point, the rise of a ruthless and totally new philosophy. Before the war, Japanese society was this incredibly rigid hierarchy. I mean, everybody knew their place. Well, the Onin War took that rulebook and burned it. It kicked off the age of Gyakokujo, this wild new reality where the lower classes could actually overthrow the upper classes. All of a sudden, your ambition, not your family name, was what mattered.
And wow, this quote from a text written about that time, it just perfectly captures the new mindset. It's totally survival of the fittest. The old rules about honor and who owns what, gone. The only rule left was power. It was an era of backstabbing, ambition, and pure self-interest.
So let's circle back to our big paradox. How did creation spring from all of this destruction? Well, the answer is that you have to stop seeing the war as just an ending. It wasn't. It was a violent, brutal catalyst that forced Japan down a completely new and unexpected path.
So if we boil it all down, there are three really key takeaways here. First, the destruction actually led to transformation. Think of it like a massive forest fire that clears away all the old dead wood so new things can grow. Second, it led to the decentralization of culture. It wasn't stuck in one city anymore. It was spread across the whole country. And third, it triggered a democratization of knowledge. By shattering that old world, the war, completely by accident, laid the foundation for a more literate, more dynamic, and ultimately, a more culturally unified Japan.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If a brutal 15th century civil war could accidentally set off a cultural and literary revolution, what kind of unforeseen transformations might the crises of our own time be setting in motion right now, without us even realizing it?